Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Shrimp City Report, Charleston's #1 podcast on entertainment, leisure, and living. Today, we are here at Dumas Sons with Gary Flynn. I'm joined with the co-host and co-son, well, not co-son, #1 son.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, DJ. Sorry, I flub that all the time. But, everybody knows you're my son.
Yeah.
And, Gary Flynn has been in the business for a while. We did a little pre-chat with him. He's been with Dumas for a while, and we're lucky to be able to sit down with him. We're big fans of not just Dumas Sons, but the culture
absolutely.
of Charleston and what Dumas, actually represents. So,
I mean, it's a literal pillar of Charleston. Yeah.
We'll blow a lot of sunshine today, but it's because, we love it. Gary, let's get down to telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Great. Yeah. Thanks for the time, guys. So Gary Flynn, I've been in the retail game a long time, as you mentioned earlier. I started my retail path with Nordstrom back when I was in college and was there for 27 years and kind of went through all different iterations of jobs there, from picking up hangers to unloading trucks to selling on the floor and managing and buying and being a head of a merchandising division by the time I left. And then from there, I went and picked up and moved to New York City and worked for Hugo Boss, their home office that ran North America and South America. And I was in charge of retail merchandising for them for about 5 years. And then ended up here in Charleston about 9 years ago to help David Dumas out. David is this generation's Dumas. And unfortunately, he has a degenerative eye disease and he has gone blind. So he needed to take on a partner in order to keep the business going.
Right.
So that's my shtick.
Okay. So you talk about, picking up hangers and working your way up the ranks. Do you think that gave you all around, well-rounded idea of the business?
Yeah. At what point did you realize you were picking up all this information from just, stuff like picking up hangers or these small jobs that kind of built on each other?
Yeah. I do believe that in order to be relevant to all the different types of people who run retail for an organization, it helps to have walked in their shoes for a little while.
Okay.
And so, I totally believe starting from the ground up and working your way through is still the best way to do that. Today's culture is slightly different than that. It's a little bit more, I'm going to leave this company to go to that company to get a bigger job, and then I'm going to get a bigger job and get a bigger job. And not a lot of people stay in one organization for that long. But I think there's 100% validity to that approach of working your way through it.
Yeah. I mean, just speaking from a person on the outside, it feels nice knowing that the man at the top has had every position there is on the bottom too, Yeah, I mean, you know all aspects of the job. So
it certainly helps. And it's little things you pick up that you can use today.
Yeah.
You pick it up along the way. But I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about customer and trends and all that stuff. But that's all part of it. Is all these other positions that you get. You get a little bit of knowledge about, hey, how do I make this better? Oh, okay, now when it's my turn to go do that, how do I do that better? And I think you pick up a lot of that from all the teams that you work with along the way.
Yeah. So what was the transition like then, going from New York to Charleston? I mean, New York being such a big city, than Charleston.
It was
smaller,
much more comfortable. It was a welcome change.
Right.
New York, I loved. We actually lived in New Jersey, and I commuted in, and it was exciting for the 5 or 6 years I did it. But it was kind of run its course, and we had a small daughter while we were there, and she's now grown up and is 14. But when we moved here, she was 5.
Okay.
So I wanted to be able to spend more time at home, and the commuting back and forth on the train takes a lot of time. And then my jobs were getting me flying all over the country and all over the world even. The Boss one, I was going, their home office is in Germany. So I was flying back and forth to Stuttgart a couple times a month for a long time. So it was nice to be able to realize I was going to be able to sleep in my own bed a lot more.
Okay, so flying back and forth to Stuttgart. Now you live in Charleston, which is, it's that I'm sure you have a better commute than New Jersey to New York or Stuttgart.
Yeah.
And instead of New York City, you're now in a place that is in the heart of the peninsula of Charleston. Been here for ever. Heck, we'll talk about the history of that.
There's plenty of it.
Yeah. So as I understand, M. Dumas and Sons started out in, it was at 1917?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Holy cannoli. That is really way back there. That is so much history. Well, who opened it?
Sure.
What for? Was there, I mean, I guess you didn't have mission statements back there, but what were they looking to do?
Yeah. So M. Dumas is actually Mendel Dumas.
Oh, Mendel? Okay.
Yep. And his sons were Abe and Joe. So the three of them were who started the business. Originally, they were a bit more of a thrift kind of a store, and just was trying to find a way to make ends meet and get things going and feed their families and do what they needed to do to take care of their families. And there was a lot of iterations of Dumas from that day till now. And that's one of the things that struck me about our history is how much evolution and change there has been throughout the decades along the way. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, right? That's the definition of insanity. And they have reinvented themselves multiple times along the pathway.
No, I mean, when you think about all the world events it's been through, that this place is still held strong.
Yeah, like the Depression, World War II. So I guess they started out maybe with more utilitarian type clothes, thrift clothes, or whatever, maybe the service industries and stuff like that. So fashion, in air quotes, wasn't really on the minds of the early Dumas family.
Consumers, or the customers, really, for that matter, to be honest.
That's right.
But, one of the things that they had to do to get through to now was, during the war, they actually were contracted to help uniform the Navy, because there's a big naval base here back then.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So there's your World War II.
Yeah, so they helped get through that. Yeah.
Okay.
And they came out of that with a real respect for the uniform business, right? And so they expanded the business into supporting local businesses here. Come buy your Dickies at Dumas, and we'll put your patch on it for you for the the exterminator company or the gas station or whoever else might need that. And that was a big part of the business. I mean, if you're ever in the store, above the dressing rooms, there's a big M. Dumas letters down there, and they're built with the patches of all the different companies we used to do that for. So we tried to keep that history alive in the store.
Okay, we'll definitely get a picture of that for the website when we do that.
Very cool thing.
So the location, we're on the corner.
King and Society,
that's right. Sure. Have we always been here?
No. We moved here in 1973.
Okay.
Prior to us being in this building, it was a Haverty's furniture store, actually. Another kind of a funny little thing is if you are coming in the entryway, we have a big, long Dumas mat down, but if you pull that mat back away, there's a big H underneath it for Haverty's.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's Charleston history.
Yeah, exactly. Prior to us being here in 73, we were at the corner of Market and King for a number of years. And then prior to that, I'm not exactly sure where the first location actually was. I'd love to see that, to be honest, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah, this is the location I remember because, I'm of the age, for that. There was a time when Charleston, south of Calhoun Street, had some restaurants and some shops, and it was, a lot of local stuff. One thing you wouldn't do is usually go north of Calhoun. And now there is a lot of shops, and now we have notable, I guess, brands that the Saks and the thing, stores like that have come in here. What has the impact of the national brands been to Charleston retail?
Yeah. That's been a study for me to go through that, because thankfully, King Street is a very thriving, very robust shopping corridor. There's only like 3 of these in the nation that are as robust as this, and we want to try to keep it as special as we can, and with as much local flavor in it. But then pepper in some of the national brands as well. But be careful about how many of the national brands, because we don't want it just to feel like a mall. Right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's been something that there's a group of people, some of the business owners, some of the building owners, King Street, get together and talk about things like that, like who should we be going after? What do we need to still? What are we missing? What could be the next thing here? And because it's such a thriving area, not that many stores don't do well here. So a lot of the stores that are here, it's one of their better stores. So you don't see them close very often.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Historically, we'll kind of shift back to all the changes throughout the generations. Fashion in Charleston, I assume, kind of by osmosis was King Street because it's one of the main thoroughfares. When did like fashion or retail for clothes in Charleston kind of get past the utilitarian into was it just
into an actual like style of its own almost? Yeah.
What was happening in the 50s and the 60s, baby boomers with some money to spend,
Yeah, that's where I think it happened, was right about it then.
Yeah.
Another thing that we used to be known for, and it kind of helped shape what Charleston is known for through fashion, is seersucker suits and cotton suits and bow ties, and all that was a huge part of our business for a very, very long time. And we were kind of known as the seersucker store.
Yes, you were.
Yeah. I see some of the old newspaper ads that we used to run and whatnot, and it was pretty cool.
Well, that distinctive Charleston look.
Yeah.
Now, it's evolved away from that quite a bit, but for a long time, that was what we were known for, and that's what Charleston was known for.
That is a good point I wanted to touch on, too. How, I guess, with your experience, how did you adapt going from the New York lifestyle or like life trends to Charleston? Was it an easy transition, or did it take some time getting used to the overall style?
Style-wise, it was pretty easy for me. One of my past jobs at Nordstrom was based in Texas, and I ran the men's division for Texas, Georgia, and Florida.
Right.
So I got a lot of Southern color and weights and the understanding of the importance of, lightweight and light colors.
It gets hot here. Yeah.
It does, right? Yeah. And, until you live down here, you don't really get it. So that part to me was like coming home. I really enjoyed the styling and the color and kind of the pop that comes in our store. If you go rummage through our sport coat selection here, there's a lot of poppy colors there, and that's we've now become known for that in the industry. A lot of people call that that's a Dumas coat right there. So the transition for me was relatively easy. Now that's on the product side and the work side and all that. The thing that I needed to do was get ingratiated in with the community and to really get to know the movers and the shakers and the mayor and how things run here and who do I need to talk to and all that sorts of things. Because you're pretty much an outsider unless you've been here for 3 generations. So it takes a few minutes to kind of get through that and prove that you're here for the long haul.
Yeah.
I did do some research on your website. It seems one of the keynote events or the milestones was 1993 introducing Tommy Bahama. Did that just represent changing over into leisure and recreation, or just what's significant about that?
There's a couple things. One, the Dumas family has always been trying to be the first on things, if they can be. And this was when they got it. Tommy Bahama was still just kind of really getting started. And we became the first dealer for Tommy Bahama in the state of South Carolina. And then not only was it a new brand, but it was also a new price point for us. Their shirts started at $100 or more. And we had lived almost exclusively under $100 prior to that. And so it was a big kind of leap of faith that we could take our customers up a notch that way. And then that brand ended up being our number one volume brand for a good long time. So not only was it the right decision, but it was a very, very strong, profitable decision to make too.
Right. And I guess that influences how you would proceed in the future with, other brands that may come in at a higher price point. You're like, well, we've already primed the pump.
Yep.
Yeah.
In Charleston, so to speak.
No, it is amazing just hearing the history and all the right decisions they made, along the way.
Oh, so, sure. For sure. We will, you want to highlight the positives.
Right. Yeah. We've made no mistakes along the way.
Oh, yeah. Neither have we. Well, I mean, Tommy Bahama is a brand.
Yes.
You're an establishment that sells clothes that are branded. Let's just stop off top of your head. How many brands do you carry right now?
Yeah, so we try to cover ourselves from, tuxedo down to, shorts and flip-flops and hunting and fishing kind of apparel still. And so when you do that with all those different kind of categories, it's a lot of brands. And we do meaningful business with about 125 brands. The top 20 of those drive 80% of the business, the old 80-20 rule. But there's really, there's brands that we buy, we buy playing cards from a brand. That's all we buy from them. Or we buy underwear from somebody else, and that's all we carry. But if you're talking about like multi-category, head-to-toe dressing brands, it's probably more like 15 or 20 that are really driving the business there.
Okay. And we hit on it a little bit earlier. Obviously, clothing and it is like an evolving thing and it keeps changing. But do you think there's what do you think is the modern defined look nowadays that y'all carry? What are most people, I guess, going for?
Sure. There's a few things there. There's a whole big trend around, and this is in no order of importance at all, but there's a trend towards performance fabrications.
Mm-hmm.
So there's performance polos and performance shorts and performance pants and performance long sleeve shirts. And so there's that kind of element of things that are happening right now that are important. But then if you go onto our other side of the store, the sport coat business itself is a monster.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, and it's really become our kind of our DNA now. So it's sport coat, not always with a tie, sometimes open collar with a nice pocket square in, and then maybe even kind of this high-low dressing. So you have this high dressing, meaning you're going dressier with the coat, but then low, meaning you're going a little bit more casual with the pant.
Okay.
And so we do denim or five-pocket pants with a lot of our sport coats as opposed to a dress trouser, let's say.
Okay.
So I guess you obviously Sherpa people with their looks, and I assume you have a very qualified staff that can help any of us come in that may be a little dressing challenged or fashion challenged. So
yeah, I'm super proud of the team we have, and they all have their own strengths, but they're all happy and willing to take someone from the very beginning to the very end of the store, up and down, and really help you pull your look together.
That's so important. I mean, talk about the loyalty that would instill for Dumas or any business in any city to know that you have that kind of, customer service or that kind of care.
Right. Yeah.
And I bring up loyalty, but I also, both of us, have our challenge with trust, or Devin's had his situations with the online clothiers and stuff. So
it's a struggle. I've mentioned this before, but being colorblind is another challenge that's always thrown in when picking out any type of clothing, really. So,
well, we've had a few customers who've had the same challenges, and we've even gone to their home and helped them figure out what goes with what.
Yeah.
And literally, at one point, I did that myself once when I was at Nordstrom, and I kind of tried to keep it alive here, but I literally put A on the top and A on the bottom. The guy knew that I can wear the A and the A together.
Yeah.
He didn't have to know what the colors were. He knew that if I match A and A together, then I'm going to be okay.
That's a great idea. Then you can dress in the dark.
Yes, exactly. So, you ever heard of Granimals before?
I was about to say Granimals, but I didn't want to date myself.
I did it for you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So do you have any local lines?
Yeah. We have a few of them. One is called Hook, H-U-K.
Oh, yeah, very familiar.
Yep. They're based up on Clements Ferry is where their home office is at. And then we've got another one called Charleston, which is a golf apparel line that is based off of the neighborhood called Charleston in Charleston, which is way back in the day was the U.S.'s first golf course was there. And then,
really?
Yeah. So the guys did their research and pulled that brand out. And then we do things like the Charleston Shucker Company. We buy some shuckers from them that we sell. So
I saw those downstairs. They have holsters with them.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
For our tourist listeners and our out-of-state listeners, the oyster culture is huge in Charleston. I mean, there's a roast in somebody's backyard every weekend.
That's
seems.
True. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I didn't know about Charleston or South Carolina in general was how much outdoor enthusiasts there are here, from fishing to hunting to horseback riding to being out at an oyster roast. Just being outdoors is such a huge part of what Charleston is that it surprised me how important a brand like Barber would be down here, right? Because it's warm a lot here, right?
Yeah.
And those are kind of heavy jackets,
right.
but the wax cotton jacket is part of our DNA as well as
it
almost
really
anything else. Yeah,
it really is.
So who does I guess in that regard, the research for all the inventory then? Like who's prepping to figure out what you want to have in stock?
Yeah, a lot of that falls on my shoulders. I've got a couple guys from the sales floor that travel with me, and we go to market and we pick out the buy. I always like to have at least two to three people involved in picking product because you get a couple of different opinions on the table. And I don't want to ever pretend like I know everything because I clearly don't. And so having a younger person than myself helping or having somebody who's a little bit more conservative than me or somebody who's a little bit more forward than me, trying to get a nice mixture of things.
It seems like you could easily get like tunnel vision.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you could see, I mean, if we were on film right now, you'd see a wall behind you that has a bunch of swatches on it that is me trying not to duplicate when I look at different brands. So there's probably 7 or 8 different sport coat brands up there, and I'm just trying to make sure that we don't, buy things that are too similar to each other. So things like that, the little tools that you pick up along the way.
Yeah, so getting back to the sports coats and the tuxedos, you have fitting services and alteration services. There's nothing, it's not technically off the rack.
Yeah. Well, so we do a couple of different ways. We do buy things from vendors and stock them in the store, and we do that. That's what you call as off the rack. But rarely does one just put a coat on and you walk out the door. There's always some sort of alteration that needs to happen, whether the left sleeve's a little bit longer than the right, or, you need to let it out just a little bit at the waist or whatever. And I've got 5 tailors here that work for us, and 2 master tailors who could build you a suit from scratch. And the 5 of them support all 4 stores. So they're very, very, very busy.
Right. Yeah.
But we can do that, or we can literally start with a swatch and build it through the brand and have the brand custom make it for you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So there's
cool.
books and books of swatches downstairs, and you can go through them and pick out a great pink plaid that you love and get it in exactly how you want it.
So getting back to the market and all of that, are you trying to get in seasonal clothing? What are some brands that you're excited about right now that we may be seeing in the future?
Sure. Yeah, I think, getting in and out of the season is really critical in any part of the country. But here, the spring-summer season is so much longer than the fall-winter season is that we have to be really delicate and careful with the fall-winter season, or you could end up having too much and then it's not relevant really quickly. Once you turn into January or February, it's over. So you really have to plan those seasons out accurately. As far as the new brands go, we're always looking for something new. And this season, we brought in a few things. Rowback is a new brand in the store that has been a vertical online brand. They only sold for themselves for a long time, but then they just started getting into the wholesale business, which means they're taking on, stores like us to sell as well. And we're having their first season. On the other side of the store, a new brand is Orlebar Brown, which is a British brand that is kind of a little higher end price point, but super casual and swimwear and, short sleeve shirts and whatnot. So it's like, very fancy casual wear.
Sure, that's good. So, I mean, the business is dynamic, so you're continuing to grow that way.
Yeah.
As far as growth goes as well, you have 4 locations now?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have Mount Pleasant, and what else do you have?
Yeah, so the downtown King Street store is obviously the one we've had for the longest time, and it is by far the biggest store that we have. The second store that we opened was a partner store with Southern Tide, which is one of our big brands in the store here.
Okay.
But we opened that one over at the Town Center Mall in Mount Pleasant, and that's been there about 6 going on 7 years now. Then the next store after that we opened was another partner store, because that formula worked pretty well for us. We opened a Johnny O store, but that's downtown and it's over in the Charleston Place Hotel.
Okay, yeah.
So just a few blocks away from the King Street store. And then last September we opened our second Dumas store, which is back into Mount Pleasant in the town center location, but it's a Dumas store first and foremost.
How's that business plan of the Johnny O and Southern Tide working out? I assume that it's mutually advantageous.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool story there, because the brands want you to think it's a Southern Tide owned store, right? Or a Johnny O owned store. But because of Dumas Sons and the history that we have here and how connected to the community we are, they're the only 2 stores that are allowed to say that we are a combination store. So it's called Southern Tide by Dumas Sons and Johnny O by Dumas Sons.
Oh, wow.
And you don't see that in any of the other stores. So this is was a way for us to let people know it was us doing it. It's just what I was excited about. But the brands really wanted to latch onto the Dumas brand as well. So it was a nice combination.
That's smart. Do you have intentions of growth? Let's see, more stores, online.
What's next?
What are you going to do?
Yeah. I should have backed up and said that we did actually open an online store too. That was pretty early on. It wasn't here when I got here, but we added it on. But after that, I'm not sure yet. You know, there's
Mhm.
offers kind of coming on, which is kind of interesting. You know, people saying, "Hey, we're opening this new thing over in wherever, and would you be interested?" As opposed to us knocking on doors, people are starting to knock on our door, which was pretty flattering.
Right.
So.
As entrenched as you are, and the reputation that you are, you want to be, very not trepidatious, but research the possibilities, because you do have a brand and a reputation to protect. So you don't want to
make sure the quality's still there.
And pepper it all over the place.
Yeah, and I'm old school enough that I really want to be very involved in whatever that store is. And so I don't want it to be too far out of my market, or else I'm not going to get there that often. So to me, it's got to be, within a 2 or 3 hour drive time, or else it's probably beyond what we would want to do. So, but what does that mean? It could mean Columbia, it could mean Myrtle Beach, it could mean Savannah, it could mean, it could mean other things. But for now,
are you telling me there's no more trips to Germany?
No, I'm pretty committed to staying here. Although thankfully, because we're now doing a lot of business with Italian vendors, we've had a couple of reasons to go to Italy a couple of times. So,
cool.
There's one of the biggest trade shows in the world is in Florence in Italy. It's called Pitti Uomo. And, for my Nordstrom days, I'd go there then, but now I get to go there with Dumas. And it's kind of fun to take my family and go explore Italy in between, after the show's over with for a couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long has Dumas had international brands? Were there any legacy brands that were international, or was it all just Dickies and Duckhead and all that other stuff?
I think Barber probably might have been the first one, because they're based in England. And we've been doing business with them forever. And then, so another chapter of Dumas, about 20 years ago, the location right next door to us was another men's store called A.J. Davis. And they catered to Italian wear and dress clothes. And Dumas catered to casual clothes, right? Well, that business went out of business, and David and his brother at the time decided they were going to expand, and they got into the dress clothes business at that time. And they did it with a few brands, mostly American brands, but then they also had a couple Canadian brands. So that was maybe another foray into outside of the U.S. type brands. So Samuelson was from Canada, and Jack Victor's from Canada. We're still doing business with them today as well.
Oh, cool.
I feels like we've literally covered 100 years of history.
Gary, if you have some topics you want to get into, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I think just, getting that message out that we do have 4 locations, and really trying to help people experience the Mount Pleasant location, because it's a different way of merchandising a store, that store, compared to the downtown store. The downtown store is kind of stack it high, watch it fly it in a lot of ways, because we do a lot of business in this store. And so we can't really romance it as much as I'd like to. But the Mount Pleasant store is a different concept. There's more space in between the tables, and there's more mannequins, and there's more outfit dressing, and we're really trying to educate you how to wear things there more than downtown.
We definitely need to check that out. Yeah,
we'll definitely do that. So what are the hours and the days that the Mount Pleasant store is open?
Sure. Yeah, Monday through Saturday we're open 10 to 7, and then on Sundays we're open 12 to 5.
Do you have similar hours at the flagship store?
Yep, exactly the same, actually. Yeah. The only one that's different is the Johnny O store, because it's in Charleston Place. All those shops in Charleston Place close at 6, so they get to go home a little bit earlier than we do.
Well, that's fine, I guess. More hours means more money, I guess.
Yeah,
it can. Yeah, it can. That was always the philosophy. We used to open at 9, so David wanted to be the first store open and the last one closed, and so we were doing 9 to 7 for a lot of years, but COVID kind of changed that a little bit. And so we went back to a 10 to 6 for a short time, and then added the 7 back in after that. So
makes me wonder who was buying clothes at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Somebody that works third shift or something.
Right. Or a tourist coming out of a hotel in the morning like, now what do I do?
That's right.
Coming out of a hotel with 90-degree weather and a bunch of wool on or something.
Yeah.
I need some clothes stat.
Wow. Do you get those tourists that come in and are like, I need a week's worth of clothes?
Yeah. We get people who've, the airlines lost my luggage. That happens. Or, gosh, I came to town and we have dinner reservations, and I had no idea how dressy Charleston was.
Sure.
Like I just brought some shorts and some nice shirts, and that ain't going to cut it at Halls. So, so we get people who actually come in, buy a sport coat, and pick it up that night to wear it that night to dinner. So a lot of that happens here. And another thing, there's not a lot of stores that are the size that this store is.
Mhm.
And by this store, I mean the King Street store. And so people come from all over the nation here, right? But they could be coming from smaller towns or towns that don't have a very big men's store. And guys are busy. Our lives are busy when we're at home where, you got the family and you got your job and you got the house to take care of and you got all these things to do and you don't spend a lot of time shopping for yourself.
Yeah.
And so when you're on vacation, you're in a different gear and you come into a store like ours and you're like, oh my gosh, they got a lot of brands in here. And, I purposely want you to be hit with the idea of, wow, if I can't find it here, I don't know if it exists because they got a lot of stuff here. And if it's not there, maybe I don't need it kind of thing. And so we want that impression. And we hear it a lot from customers like, honey, I might be in here for a few minutes. I don't get to shop before. And a lot of the times the wife's like, thank God, yes, please do. But I'm not going to hang around. I'm going to go shop for myself while you shop for a little while.
Yeah, so you can accommodate the whole family. And, well, frankly, the store, and we will post pictures, is super comfortable. It's cozy. It definitely is a place that men are going to feel comfortable in. Yeah. There's not a lot of chrome and mirrors and all the stuff that you would see at the
no marble,
the outlet mall or whatever.
That too. Yeah.
So I find it very comfortable, and the fact that you can accommodate everyone, and that's a good point about having leisure time finally to go mill about a store on vacation.
I guess to that point, it's not intimidating either, because the amount of times I've went in to buy a suit or something like that, and it's just like, I have no idea what I'm doing,
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody may be just sitting there waiting on you to make a decision instead of helping out. So we definitely don't get that vibe here. And we've been fans, for years growing up here, and just wanted to ask Gary if you have anything you want to add here.
No, just thanks for being fans and helping us get the word out there. It surprises me. Every day we get somebody walks through that door that has never heard of us before, which is really cool because we get to be their first experience to Dumas every day.
Right, that's great.
So we try to win people over right away if
Excellent.
we can. Yeah.
Okay, so for the Shrimp City Report, I'm Devin.
I'm DJ.
And we're signing off for the week with Gary. Y'all come on down to, man, did that sound like Cracker Barrel or what?
There's banjo playing somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded very Charleston-y.
Yeah, I guess so.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Yeah, I want to encourage everyone to come down to Charleston to M. Dumas and Sons and get your fashion on. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see y'all next time on the Shrimp City Report. Thanks.